This is Open Mind Alexander Technique. I'm Jess. Today we're talking about muscles. Muscles 101. How do they work? And how does that apply to how you habitually move? So, the main thing to keep in mind is muscles can only pull or release. They can't push. So anytime we think we're doing something that requires pushing, what you're actually doing is pulling in the opposite muscle set, on the opposing side. So in order to do my classic push something away from myself motion, what's happening is a muscle between my forearm and my upper arm is tightening, and that's back here. Elbows are pretty useful for demonstrating these things because they're pretty visible. So I can have my bicep muscle, which serves to do this pull motion, or to release that pull motion. I can have that working in a way that's pretty clear to people and they can find on themselves. The reason I specified my bicep muscle can't do this motion is because that involves the opposing muscle set. It gets a little complicated though. So if we look into what is required in order to keep my elbow from just collapsing down like dead weight, the muscle on this side has to be somewhat engaged as I release. Muscles aren't an all on or all off thing as far as how they functionally apply to our movement. You can sort of engage a muscle. You can sort of let go of a muscle. So if I'm working towards having my hand come up towards my shoulder, that's going to tighten on this side. Success. I can have this muscle in its lengthened position tight or loose. I can also have that same muscle in its shortened position tight or loose. So an interesting thing to look at on stand is how does that apply to the balance of your head? So come here, stand. How do you look up with more than just your eyeballs? How do you actually get your face? We'll use your nose as a focus point here. How do you get your nose to go up? Where's the pull? It has to be a pull or a release because that's the only things that our muscles actually do. There is no forehead muscle. I can't pull my head up. It doesn't happen. There's nothing there. So how do I get this round object to tilt this way? Where am I shortening a distance? It's back here. So looking to tilt my nose up is actually a pull in the back of my neck. So it's an interesting thing to keep in mind. If you are habitually tilting your skull so that your face is pointing upward, that is by definition neck tension. If you look at how Stan is distributed here, he's got a lot more bone on the front of his face than at the back of the head. The front of your head is heavier than the back. So if these muscles in the back of your neck want to be able to do less work, they have to let go. And that's going to be able to allow this space in the back of the neck to increase. So in Alexander Technique, we have a couple different ways we can describe that. The most common one that you might hear from a lot of different Alexander Technique teachers is letting the neck be free and lengthening in your neck. For some folks, lengthening language can feel like coming apart, especially for folks who are hypermobile. I wouldn't recommend, especially with the head and the neck, thinking of lengthening or up or apart at all. The tools that we use in order to send signals from our brain to our muscles has to be individual because we have individual nervous systems, and we have individual needs. We have individual ways of structuring thoughts. All a thought is an electric signal in your brain. In the same way that the signal to make a fist comes from an electric signal in my brain. We can tap into that on purpose. So when I'm thinking about allowing my head to find its own balance on top of my spine, I can use this functional anatomy knowledge. How does this thing want to work? How is it structured? I know that my spine goes up to just about the level of my ears. And so I can do these teeny tiny nods and allow my head to find its own balance up there because I'm not pulling in my neck. So my challenge for you all is to check in with yourself. Where are you doing more work with your muscles than you actually need to in order to accomplish whatever task you're doing? Sitting is a task. Standing is a task. These are dynamic activities. Being active participants in our own lives is a non-zero amount of effort. It takes work, but it doesn't have to take extra work. That's what efficient and sustainable movement is. It's actually doing the bare minimum. Because if I'm not spending extra energy and extra effort on muscle engagement that I don't need, then I have that energy available to do other things and use it for things that I actually want to spend that energy on. So today, ask yourself, where are you doing extra work in yourself that you don't need to be?